When he started tasting the fruit, I could barely control myself. It was so incredible that I moaned like one of those movie actresses. I kept saying it again and again so he wouldn't stop, and I held his head tightly, wanting him to never leave. Hello, it's great to have you here with me in another story on our Relato's Davida channel. I love sharing these experiences, and I'm even happier when you subscribe and like. Before we start, I want to send a special kiss to our dear followers, João Silva and Maria Oliveira. Thank you so much for your affection. Leave your name in the comments and I'll make sure to send you a big kiss in the next video. Today, I'm going to tell you a story that was sent to us by a follower from Belo Horizonte, Minas Gerais. Let's go. This story changed everything for me, full of twists and turns and involving revenge that, in the end, was sweeter than I imagined. My name is Laura. I'm 28 years old and I live with my mother in a simple house that my father left behind when he passed away. After he left, my mother was never the same. First came the mourning, then the discovery that my father had had other relationships before he passed away. She was devastated and started taking all her anger out on me, because, according to her, I defended his memory. And I did, because he had always been a good father to me. From then on, I became her target. To make matters worse, she started bringing men home. All kinds of guys she met at parties and nightclubs. Our house, which used to be peaceful, became a mess. She ignored all boundaries, and I felt like I had lost the little peace I had left. Until one day, she showed up with Pedro. He was much younger, 30 years old, while she was already 52. They met at work, and he ended up moving in with us overnight, without any warning. At first, I was outraged. The idea of a stranger in my house, and my mother's boyfriend on top of that, seemed absurd. But then something occurred to me. If she was willing to live her life the way she wanted, so could I. That's when I decided I wasn't going to stand still. If she wanted to make me feel angry and sad, I was going to get even, and that was going to be with Pedro. The day he arrived, I made sure to get ready. I changed my clothes into something more daring, tight shorts and a low-cut blouse. I put on some red lipstick and went into the living room, where he was. My mother, of course, noticed and tried to give me a disapproving look, but I ignored her. When Pedro saw me, he looked a little embarrassed, but he didn't hide his gaze. We exchanged a few words, but I already knew he had noticed my intention. While my mother went to the kitchen to prepare something, I started a conversation with him. Pedro was friendly, a little shy, and he said he would only be staying for a few weeks, until his new apartment was ready. With that, I knew I had to act fast. The moment my mother came back into the living room, I managed to get up and walk right by him, just to see his reaction. I went back to the bedroom satisfied. The first step had been taken. I knew he was already interested. All I needed now was an opportunity, and this story was just beginning. After that first day, I started observing Pedro's every move at home. It was inevitable that we would pass each other in the living room or the kitchen, and I noticed how he tried to hide his curious glances, but he couldn't. It was even funny to see the effort he made to act as if nothing was happening. Things at home continued as usual. My mother seemed blind to the attention between me and Pedro. She went about her daily routine, busy with work and going out, and didn't even notice the glances he exchanged or the discreet smiles he gave me. One morning, I woke up and went to the kitchen still in my pajamas, unaware that Pedro was there. When he saw me, he gave a slight smile, as if he were surprised. He tried to hide his gaze, but I could tell he was observing every detail of what I was wearing. I stood still, got a coffee, and after a few seconds of silence, I asked him if he was enjoying living there. He said he was, but he made a point of mentioning that he would soon be in the new apartment, as if he was trying to explain himself. I pretended not to understand his intention, and continued to make conversation as if it were the most natural thing in the world. The atmosphere began to become increasingly tense. One day, my mother left early for work, and I knew Pedro would also be leaving soon. I took advantage of the opportunity and went to the bathroom, hoping he would be passing by in the hallway. And he was. When I left, I ran into him and without thinking twice, I walked right up to him, close enough for him to smell my perfume. Pedro, a little embarrassed, smiled and said that I smelled really nice for someone who was just going to stay home. I smiled back and said that sometimes we get dressed up for the people we least expect. After that, we just stood there looking at each other. Neither he nor I could handle the excitement. The silence was broken when he let out a nervous chuckle and apologized, saying he was going to be late. But I knew I had planted the seed. Every day, the tension grew, and I just needed the perfect opportunity to take the next step. With the whole house to ourselves, I knew there was nothing stopping what was about to happen. I walked past him with a teasing smile and approached him. He looked nervous, but he didn't back away. When I placed my hand over his and let my touch linger a little longer, I sat down next to him and let our eyes meet, challenging, almost inviting. I felt the heat of his hands running over the exposed skin of my arms, moving up with a teasing slowness to the curve of my neck. The closeness intensified every movement. He pulled me in, and our bodies came closer, exploring every inch. Our lips met, and the contact deepened quickly, the rhythm of the kisses increasing with each passing second. He seemed like he wanted to swallow me. The kisses were mixed with little bites and licks. He ran his tongue all over my body, until he reached my fruit. When he started tasting the fruit, I could hardly hold it in. It was so good that I moaned like one of those movie actresses. I kept saying it again and again for him not to stop, and I held his head tightly, wanting him to never leave. Then he picked me up and threw me on the bed, fierce as an animal, and that only made me even hotter. I could feel his body fitting against mine, firm, heavy, each touch bringing a new sensation. He let his hands roam, sliding over each curve firmly, with relish, as if he wanted to devour me in every sense. He immersed himself in the moment, letting the physical intensity speak for itself. He grabbed me tightly by the waist and put me in the positions he wanted, and I just obeyed, like a good little bitch. The pressure of his body against mine, the rhythm he found between each touch and each movement, made the moment powerful and captivating. With each new contact, I could feel the heat and energy rising, and so could he. There was something in each touch, a precision in the way he explored each part, that made it clear that nothing was being spared at that moment. I could tell he had done this many times, with many women. His surrender was total and intense. I moaned so loudly that all the neighbors must have heard. We were so immersed in that moment that we didn't hear the door open. Completely surrendered, we barely noticed when my mother entered the room and stopped, observing the scene for a few moments. When I realized her presence, my heart stopped. But contrary to what I imagined, she didn't explode with rage or scream. Instead, she kept a steady gaze that mixed surprise and something else I hadn't expected, a certain interest. She stood there for a few seconds and, without saying anything, began to approach. Pedro and I exchanged a confused look, but we made no move to move away. She then approached me and, in an unexpected gesture, slid her hand over my shoulder and then turned her gaze to him, as if she were willing to participate in this. Pedro, still not understanding, hesitated, but she placed her hand over his and, in a slow gesture, guided the continuation of the touch. At that moment, the tension became even more intense, and my heart raced with the mixture of surprise and the possibility of something completely unexpected. She let her hands roam, exploring every detail next to Pedro, in a synchronized way, involving herself completely. Instead of pulling away or interrupting, she integrated herself, bringing a new and even more engaging energy. What began as a provocation and a game turned into a moment that I certainly never imagined. Out of respect for my mother, I'm going to end the story here. If she lets me, I might send you the sequel. What did you think of this story? Leave a comment. I'd love to hear it. A special kiss for you. Did you like this story? Then leave a comment telling us what you thought, and, if you've experienced something similar, share it with us. Don't forget to like, subscribe to the channel, and activate the bell so you don't miss any new content. Here, we always bring life stories, reflections, and real experiences, all with great sincerity. Thank you for watching until the end and for being part of this journey. See you in the next video.